Hello all, myself Dr. Shanti Verma. In today's tutorial, I am going to discuss object-oriented programming in Python. Let's first discuss the learning objective of this session. At the end of this session, you are able to understand the difference between the procedural and object-oriented programming. I am also going to discuss the features of object-oriented programming and the fundamental concepts of the object-oriented programming in Python. I am also going to discuss the classes and objects and the init method and self that is used in a object oriented programming. Now let's first discuss the difference between the procedural and the object oriented languages. Procedural languages divide the program into a parts that is methods, and basically in object oriented languages program is divided into a part that is known as objects. In procedural programming, the importance is given to the functions, not the data, while in the object oriented programming importance is given to the data rather than the functions which operate on them. Procedural programming implements the top-down approach, while the object-oriented programming implements a bottom-up approach. Procedural programming is not secure as compared to the object-oriented programming. In object-oriented programming, there are various types of access specifier like public, private, and protected, so that this language is more secure as compared to the procedural programming languages. Some examples of the procedural languages are C, Fortran, and Pascal, while object-oriented programming examples are C++, Java, and Python. Now let's discuss some fundamental concepts of object-oriented programming. Basically, the object-oriented programming ability to simulate real-life world event much more effectively. In object-oriented programming, code is reusable, so we can use code anywhere else in the program. So we have to write the less code as compared to in the procedural language. In object-oriented programming, data becomes more active, and with the help of object-oriented programming, we can create a good GUI application as compared to the procedural language. Programmers are able to produce a faster, more accurate, and the better written application with the object-oriented programming. Now let's discuss some principles of the object-oriented programming. These are the encapsulation, data abstraction, inheritance, and polymorphism. These all features I will discuss in the next lecture of the object-oriented programming. Now let's discuss first what is object. Basically, objects are the basic runtime entities in an object-oriented system. They may represent a person, a place, a bank account, a table data, or any data item that the program must handle. When a program is executed, the program interacts by sending the messages to each other. Basically, objects have the two components. First is data, that is also called attributes, and second is behaviors, that is called methods. Let's take an example. For object attributes, we have to store the data for the object example. For example, taxi. So object attributes are driver, on duty, number of passengers, and locations. While the objects method define the behaviors for the objects, and for example of taxi, this pick up point, drop off point, go on duty, go off duty, get driver, set driver, and the get numbers methods are the object methods. Now let's discuss what is a class. A class is a basically special data type which defines how to build a certain kind of object. The class also stores some data items that are shared by all the instances of the class. Python doesn't use a separate class interface definition as in the some languages. You just define the class and then use it. Basically, to define a method in a class by including a function definition with the scope of the class block. The self is a first argument for all the methods that are requested that are initialized within the class. There is usually a special method called init in the most of the class which work as a constructor. Let's discuss example of the student. In this example, you can see that I declare a one class that name is student. So for declaring, you have to use a class keyword. Next step is to defining one constructor with the help of the def. That constructor is a dunder, init dunder. The first parameter of all the methods there within the class is a self. There is a two parameter also, n and a. Then for accessing this n and a, you have to write self dot full name equals to n and self dot age equals to a. I also define a one method for getting the age. So I declare its def get underscore age. If you don't pass any parameter, then also the self is written. Then you have to write return self dot age. Here basically a class name begins with a capital letter by convention, and object class based on the Python built-in type. To define a method is same as defining a function. You have to just check that you must have a special parameter self which provides way for the method to refer a object itself. Now what is a init? Basically init is a default constructor and init serve as a constructor for the class. An init method can take any number of arguments. However, the first argument is always a self. Now discuss what is self. Basically the first argument of every method is a reference to the current instance of the class, and by convention the name this argument self. In init self refers to the object currently created. So in other methods, class methods, it refers to the instant whose method was called. In Python, Python uses self more often than Java uses this. You do not have a value for this self. When you call the method, Python will provide it. Although you must specify self explicitly when defining the method, you don't include it when calling the method. Python passes it for you automatically. For example, if you want to get age, then you have to first declare the object, for example, x equals to student, and then for accessing the age, you have to write x dot get age equal get age and pass the parameter. It returns 23. Now let's discuss how to deleting the memory. Basically, when you are done with your object, you don't have to delete or free it explicitly as in other languages destructor work. Python has automatic garbage collection, so Python will automatically detect when all of the references to a piece of the memory have gone out of scope, and if these objects are out of scope, it automatically frees the memory. So generally works well, but there are some few memory leaks also possible. So there is a no destructor for classes in a Python language. This is a whole about introduction about the object-oriented programming in Python. For more learning, you can refer these references. Thank you.